A dedicated black nurse found herself abruptly dismissed in front of a crowd, all for the simple act of saving an injured, unidentified man. Her profound act of kindness cost her not only her job but also put her at risk of a major lawsuit. Yet that very same kindness ignited an unforeseen battle against deep-seated corruption. At a grand, opulent banquet, she and the man whose life she saved courageously exposed the hospital's darkest secrets. And from that pivotal moment onward, her entire life would be transformed forever. Before we delve into this incredible story, let us know where you're watching from. We genuinely love to hear your thoughts. The morning rush at Riverpoint Medical Center was its usual chaotic self. Phones rang incessantly, nurses hurried between patients, and the distinct smell of disinfectant hung heavily in the air. Dr. Lena Brooks clutched her clipboard tightly as she strode towards the front desk, her sneakers softly squeaking on the polished floor. She had just completed a grueling 14-hour shift, yet her mind remained sharp, her steps unwavering. She barely had a moment to catch her breath before a booming voice cut through the commotion. "Dr. Brooks, step forward." Director Alan Whitmore's voice resonated through the lobby like a gavel striking in a courtroom. Conversations instantly ceased and heads swiveled. The sounds of rustling papers and clacking keyboards abruptly stopped. Lena slowly turned, maintaining a neutral expression. Her heart began to pound against her ribs, but she held her chin high as she approached the front desk. Whitmore stood there, flanked by 2 security guards, his face flushed, his tie pulled too tight against his thick neck. He slammed a piece of paper onto the desk. "You're fired," he declared loudly, ensuring everyone within 50 feet could hear. "You violated hospital protocols. You wasted resources on an unidentified, uninsured vagrant. Leave your badge and coat on the table now." A low murmur rippled through the lobby. A mother holding her toddler instinctively took a step back. 2 residents exchanged quick, nervous glances but remained silent. Patricia, the head receptionist, smirked, tapping her perfectly manicured nails on the counter. Lena's throat tightened, but she refused to betray any weakness. She unfastened the badge from her coat with calm, deliberate movements, placing it neatly beside the paper. She could feel the intense scrutiny of dozens of eyes on her back. The judgment, the suspicion, the unspoken words. She spoke slowly, her voice steady despite the fiery indignation building within her chest. "I saved a man's life last night," she stated. He collapsed, bleeding on the floor. "No ID, no insurance, no time to waste. I made a choice and I stand by it." Whitmore leaned closer, his breath sour with the scent of stale coffee and barely contained rage. "People like you," he hissed under his breath, "need to remember their place in this institution." For a fleeting moment, Lena felt a wave of fury so potent her fingers curled into tight fists at her sides. She wanted to scream, to hurl the truth in his face, but she inhaled deeply through her nose, grounding herself. She would not give him the satisfaction of seeing her break. Instead, she straightened her spine and met his gaze head-on. "My place," she said quietly, "is where lives are saved, not where people are priced like products." Whitmore slammed his palm down again, louder this time. "Get out before I have security drag you out." Security guard Daniel Harris, who had always greeted Lena with a respectful nod every morning, shifted awkwardly. His hand hovered near her elbow, but he hesitated. His eyes met hers briefly, full of an apology he couldn't voice. Lena nodded to him, her lips pressed into a thin line. "It's okay, Daniel. I'm leaving." She gathered the last shreds of her dignity around her like a protective cloak and turned toward the exit. The lobby doors, usually automatic and welcoming, now seemed miles away. Each step felt heavier than the last. As she pushed the revolving door, a gust of cold morning air hit her face. Her chest ached, but not from the chill. It was the hollow, burning sensation of injustice spreading through her ribs and up into her throat. Outside, she paused for a moment on the sidewalk, letting the crushing reality sink in. 10 years of dedicated service, a decade of commitment, erased in less than 10 minutes. All because she had chosen compassion over bureaucracy. Across the street, the spot where a homeless man usually stood was empty. Lena frowned slightly. It was odd. He was there almost every day, rain or shine. In his place stood a man in a sleek gray suit, speaking urgently into a cell phone. He glanced in her direction briefly, his expression unreadable, then turned away. Lena wrapped her arms around herself, feeling the weight of the hospital still clinging to her skin like smoke. She didn't know it yet, but her story was only just beginning. Some debts the universe collects in its own time. Lena sat at her kitchen table, staring blankly at the untouched cup of coffee in front of her. The walls of her small home, usually filled with warmth after a long shift, now felt cold and hollow. She kept replaying the scene at the hospital in her mind, each word from Whitmore's mouth cutting deeper every time she heard it again. She had thought doing the right thing would at least bring her peace. Instead, it brought her to this moment, unemployed, humiliated, and utterly unsure what came next. Her phone vibrated on the table, breaking the silence. Unknown caller. She watched it ring until it stopped. Then again and again. 3 missed calls, all from the same unknown number. A 4th call came through and something inside her told her to answer. She picked up slowly, pressing the phone to her ear. Dr. Brooks. The voice was smooth, professional, with an edge of urgency. This is Marcus Fields. I'm an attorney with Fields & Associates. I'm calling on behalf of Samuel Prescott. Lena's brow furrowed. She rubbed her temple, her voice cautious. If this is about a lawsuit, I did what I was supposed to do. I saved a life. Marcus's voice was steady. On the contrary, Dr. Brooks. Mr. Prescott believes you saved much more than just his life. He would like to meet you immediately if you're available. Lena pulled the phone away from her ear and stared at it for a second, as if the words might rearrange themselves into something that made more sense. Samuel Prescott? That name echoed in her mind. She had seen it on the covers of business magazines, heard it mentioned in financial news. A titan of the healthcare industry worth billions. Her hand trembled slightly as she brought the phone back. Are you sure you have the right person? There was a hint of a chuckle in Marcus's voice. He's very sure, Dr. Brooks. He asked for you by name. Still doubting, still wondering if this was some cruel joke, Lena agreed to meet him at a downtown cafe in an hour. She changed into a simple sweater and jeans but kept the hospital ID badge in her pocket, as if clinging to the last piece of the life she had just lost. The cafe was buzzing with executives in sharp suits, sipping espresso and scrolling through their phones. Lena stood at the entrance, suddenly very aware of how tired she must look. Before she could second-guess herself, she spotted a man waving from a table tucked into the back corner. Marcus Fields rose to greet her, tall, impeccably dressed. His handshake was firm but not overpowering. He gestured for her to sit. I know this must be a lot to process, Marcus said, sliding a tablet across the table. But I think this will clear things up. Lena hesitated, then leaned forward and looked at the screen. Her breath caught in her throat. The face staring back at her was unmistakable, cleaned up, wearing an expensive tailored suit. But it was him. The man she had pulled off the floor, covered in blood and mud, gasping for air. Samuel Prescott. Marcus lowered his voice. Mr. Prescott has this habit of hiking alone without security to clear his mind. Yesterday he suffered a serious fall. He stumbled for miles trying to find help. When he made it to your hospital, he was unrecognizable. No ID, no wallet. But one thing was clear, he was dying. And you didn't ask for credentials. You acted. Lena sat back, her mind spinning. A part of her wanted to laugh. Another part wanted to cry. Mostly she felt exhausted. I didn't know who he was, she said finally, her voice low. I just saw a man who needed help. Marcus nodded. That's exactly why he wants to help you. But you need to understand, Director Whitmore didn't just humiliate you. He endangered Prescott's life, and worse, he exposed a systemic issue that runs much deeper than one bad decision. Lena gripped the edge of the table, feeling the weight of it all settling on her shoulders. What are you saying? Marcus leaned in slightly. I'm saying Mr. Prescott wants justice. Not just for himself. For you, for everyone who was ever turned away because they didn't fit the profile of a profitable patient. For a long moment Lena said nothing. She watched the people around the cafe, the hurried conversations, the clinking of cups, the lives rushing forward without pause. She thought about the patients she had seen over the years, the ones whispered about as charity cases, the ones who never got the full attention they deserved. She thought about the nights she stayed late, the holidays missed, the sacrifices made, believing she was part of something good. Her fingers tightened around her coffee cup. If we do this, she said quietly, we do it right. No shortcuts, no payoffs behind closed doors. We expose everything. Marcus smiled a slow, knowing smile. That's exactly what Mr. Prescott was hoping you would say. Lena took a deep breath, feeling the first real sense of purpose she had felt since walking out of Riverpoint that morning. She didn't know yet how deep the corruption went or how powerful the enemies she would make, but she knew one thing for certain. She was not going to back down. Not this time. The next morning, Lena sat in a small, glass-walled conference room inside the Prescott Global building. The walls were lined with framed photographs of hospitals, clinics, and community centers from across the country. Each one bore the Prescott logo, a reminder of the man she had saved without knowing it. Marcus entered carrying a thick folder and a tablet. He placed them carefully in front of her and pulled out a chair across the table. "This is bigger than you think," he said without preamble. His tone was serious, almost grim. "We started digging the moment Mr. Prescott realized what had happened at Riverpoint. We have records, Lena. Years' worth." Lena leaned forward slowly, her palms flat against the cool surface of the table. Her heart thudded a little faster in her chest. "Show me," she said. Marcus flipped open the folder. The first page was a simple chart. Lena scanned it quickly, her stomach twisting into a tight knot. "Patient admissions by race and insurance status," Marcus explained, tapping the columns. "Over the last 5 years, over 75% of uninsured Black and Latino patients were either delayed or outright refused care at Riverpoint. Meanwhile, nearly all uninsured white patients were at least admitted to the ER." Lena swallowed hard. Her voice was rough when she spoke. "I knew it was bad. I didn't know it was this bad." Marcus slid another document across the table. "It gets worse. Campaign contributions. The hospital donated significant sums to local officials right before budget increases or inspections, always through third-party charities, but the timing is too perfect to be coincidence." Lena stared at the figures, the names, the dates. It was like watching pieces of a puzzle snap into place. Only the picture they formed was sickening. "And Whitmore?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Marcus pulled up a video on his tablet. He pressed play without a word. It was security footage, grainy but clear. Director Whitmore stood behind the front desk at Riverpoint, speaking to Patricia, the receptionist who had smirked at Lena's firing. His voice was low, but the audio was clear enough. "Keep turning them away," Whitmore said. "If they don't have premium insurance, we don't need them dragging down our numbers. You know the kind I'm talking about." Lena clenched her jaw. Her fingers dug into the armrests of her chair. She forced herself to keep watching. Patricia laughed lightly on the tape. "No problem, boss. You'll have your bonus in no time." Marcus paused the video. "We have enough to bury him," he said quietly. For a long moment, Lena didn't say anything. Her mind raced. She thought about the patients she had seen turned away. The young mother who came in with her asthmatic son and left without treatment. The elderly man who begged for help and was told to come back with insurance paperwork. She remembered their faces, their fear, their helplessness. She also remembered every time she had been told to follow the process, when her instincts screamed at her to act. How many lives had been lost, how much suffering had been hidden behind smiling press releases and polished fundraising galas. Her stomach twisted, but underneath the sickness there was a spark. A spark of something stronger. Resolve. "What do we do next?" she asked, her voice steady now, carrying the weight of the decision she had made. Marcus leaned back slightly, studying her. There was a respect in his eyes that had not been there when they first met. "We do this carefully," he said. "We expose the system from the inside out. Every document, every witness. We make it undeniable. Whitmore has deep connections. If we act recklessly, he'll crush it before it sees daylight." Lena nodded slowly. "Then we move smart. No leaks, no shortcuts." Marcus smiled faintly. "I already have a team assembling the evidence, and Mr. Prescott has made it clear. Whatever resources you need, they're yours." The weight of that offer settled over Lena, but she shook her head slightly. "I don't want money. I want change." Marcus's smile grew. "Good. Because what's coming next won't just bring down Whitmore. It will change the way Riverpoint treats every patient who walks through those doors." Lena sat back in her chair. For the first time in days, a slow, determined fire began to build in her chest. It was not about revenge. It was about making sure no one else would ever have to stand where she stood yesterday, humiliated for doing what was right. She took a deep breath and met Marcus's gaze head-on. Let's get to work. The evening of the Riverpoint Annual Gala arrived with all the pomp and ceremony Whitmore could buy. The Metropolitan Grand Ballroom gleamed under crystal chandeliers. Every table was dressed in white linen, gold accents, and polished silverware. City officials, donors, and executives from across the state filled the room, laughing over champagne and congratulating each other on another profitable year of serving the community. At the center of it all, Director Alan Whitmore stood beaming, basking in admiration, his black tuxedo stretching tight across his chest. Lena watched from a quiet corner near the catering entrance, dressed in a simple navy blue dress, her hair pinned neatly back. She sipped a glass of water, blending into the background as waiters and hotel staff bustled past her. Her heart beat steadily, a controlled rhythm. She knew Marcus and the legal team were already in place, stationed throughout the ballroom, their hidden earpieces crackling softly with updates. Across the room, Whitmore clinked glasses with the mayor, laughing heartily at some private joke. Cameras flashed as he posed with board members and hospital trustees. Behind the smile, Lena could see the arrogance, the certainty that nothing could touch him. Marcus approached her quietly, a wine glass in hand to keep up appearances. He spoke just loud enough for her to hear. Everything's ready. The files are loaded into the projector system. Once the charity auction starts, we hit play. Lena nodded, her palms slightly damp against the cool glass she held. And security's handled, Marcus said. Prescott's people made sure the hotel's head of security knows exactly what's coming. No one's walking out of here until the feds have what they need. She exhaled slowly, steadying herself. This was it. No turning back. The lights dimmed slightly as Whitmore stepped onto the stage. A spotlight followed him as he crossed the polished wooden floor, microphone in hand. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, his voice oozing false humility. Thank you for being here tonight to celebrate another year of outstanding success at Riverpoint Medical Center. None of this would be possible without the support of generous donors like yourselves. Polite applause filled the room. Whitmore smiled broadly, soaking in the admiration like a man sipping fine wine. As a token of our appreciation, he continued, gesturing to the large screen behind him, we've prepared a special video highlighting the lives we've touched this year. Please enjoy. He stepped back, lifting his champagne glass high. The screen flickered to life. At first, the video matched the room's expectations. Smiling doctors, grateful patients, ribbon-cutting ceremonies. But then the images changed. The footage shifted to grainy security video from Riverpoint's emergency room. A voice played over the speakers, clear and unmistakable, Whitmore's voice. If they don't have premium insurance, send them somewhere else. We can't waste beds on charity cases. The room fell into stunned silence. Whitmore lowered his glass slowly, confusion flashing across his face. There must be some mistake. Turn that off. But the video continued. Spreadsheets appeared showing campaign donations tied directly to hospital budget approvals. Internal emails flashed across the screen, casually discussing which patients were worth the investment, and which were too risky. Then came the final blow. A pre-recorded message from Samuel Prescott filled the room, his calm, authoritative voice leaving no room for doubt. On October 15th, I suffered a life-threatening injury. I arrived at Riverpoint Medical Center seeking help. Because I had no identification and no insurance, I was nearly denied treatment. If not for the courage and integrity of Dr. Lena Brooks, I would not be standing here today. Riverpoint's leadership has betrayed the very mission it claims to uphold. Whitmore's face turned a sickly shade of gray. He grabbed the microphone, his voice shaking. This is slander. Please. I demand. The ballroom doors swung open. Men and women in dark suits flooded the room, badges flashing under the chandeliers. Director Alan Whitmore, an agent, announced firmly, "You are under arrest for fraud, discrimination, and embezzlement of public funds." Whitmore tried to back away, but the agents closed in. Cameras captured every moment. Cell phones shot up in the crowd, recording streaming live. As Whitmore was handcuffed and led down the steps, he caught sight of Lena standing by the wall, her eyes locked on him, steady and unflinching. "You," he spat, his voice thick with rage. "You set this up." Lena met his gaze without blinking. Her voice was calm even. "No, you did. I just made sure everyone finally saw it." Whitmore was dragged away, his protests drowned by the collective roar of voices filling the room. Journalists shouted questions, flashes lighting up the night like 1,000 tiny lightning strikes. Marcus appeared beside her again, watching the scene unfold with grim satisfaction. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Lena nodded slowly. Her chest felt tight, not with fear, but with a sense of release she hadn't allowed herself to imagine until now. "I'm more than okay," she said. "I'm ready for what comes next." 6 months later, the building that once housed Riverpoint Medical Center stood transformed. Gone were the cold marble floors and towering portraits of executives. In their place, sunlight streamed through wide glass windows, warming colorful murals painted by local artists. A new sign gleamed proudly above the entrance: Lena Brooks Community Health Center. Lena stepped through the front doors, the familiar scent of clean linen and fresh paint greeting her. Her white coat hung lightly over her shoulders, but this time it bore a new emblem, stitched in deep blue thread: compassion over profit. The lobby buzzed with life. Children laughed near the pediatric wing. Elderly patients chatted warmly with volunteers. Insurance forms were tucked away behind the front desk, no longer the first thing patients saw. Here everyone was welcome. Maria Gonzalez, the new head receptionist, waved as Lena passed. Maria had once been dismissed from Riverpoint for not fitting the image the administration wanted. Now she was the first friendly face every patient met. Daniel Harris, the former security guard who had once been forced to escort Lena out in shame, approached her, his security badge gleaming on his chest. "Morning, Dr. Brooks," he said with a broad smile. The waiting list for new patients just hit 1,000. Lena chuckled softly, feeling the weight of those words in the best possible way. "Good," she said. "That means we're doing something right." As she moved down the hallway, Dr. Marcus Patel, recently promoted to Chief of Emergency Medicine, caught up to her, a tablet in hand. "Another donation just came through," he said, scrolling through the screen. "Anonymous. $5 million. Lena raised an eyebrow but smiled. She had learned that many former donors of Riverpoint, desperate to clean their names after the scandal, were now quietly funding the center's expansion. Marcus Prescott had made sure every donation was public record, every dollar traceable. No more backroom deals, no more hidden agendas. They entered the new community auditorium, where the final touches were being made for today's dedication ceremony. The seats were filled with patients, doctors, nurses, and families, people who had once been turned away now standing proud. The lights dimmed. A spotlight found the podium. Lena stepped forward, heart pounding not from fear, but from the gravity of this moment. She took a breath, steadying herself, and spoke clearly into the microphone. 6 months ago I stood outside this building after being told I was no longer needed. I was told that compassion had no place here, that profit mattered more than people. She paused, letting the truth settle in the room. Today we are rewriting that story. This is not just a new building. It is a new beginning. A place where every life matters. No matter the size of their bank account, the color of their skin, or the insurance card in their wallet. The audience was silent, hanging on every word. Cameras from local news stations broadcast her speech live. Lena scanned the crowd and found her mother sitting in the front row, tears shining in her proud eyes. To every patient who was once told they were not worth saving, Lena continued, her voice strong and sure, "You are worth it. You always were and you always will be." Thunderous applause erupted. People rose to their feet, clapping, cheering, some crying openly. As the ceremony ended, Marcus Fields found her near the stage, holding a thick envelope. "One more thing," he said, handing it to her. Inside was a formal letter from the Department of Health recognizing the Lena Brooks Community Health Center as a national model for equitable health care. Attached was an invitation to speak before Congress about reforming hospital practices nationwide. Lena felt her throat tighten. She had not set out to change the country. She had only wanted to save a life. And somehow, by holding on to that one simple truth, she had sparked a movement bigger than herself. Outside, under the bright midday sun, a group of children gathered around the new community playground funded by the center. Laughter rang through the air, pure and unburdened. Lena watched them, her heart full. Behind her, Samuel Prescott stood quietly, hands clasped behind his back. He approached, his expression warm. "You saved me," he said simply. "And you saved something much bigger than either of us." Lena shook her head slowly. We saved it together. All of us who refused to stay silent. He smiled and nodded once, deeply. The world needs more people like you. As they stood there, watching the community reclaim what had once been a monument to greed, Lena understood something she had not before. Justice was not about vengeance. It was about rebuilding what had been broken. About creating spaces where dignity could thrive. About giving every life a fighting chance. And sometimes, the universe took everything from you not to punish you but to make space for something infinitely better. The story of Lena Brooks was no longer just about surviving injustice. It was about leading a revolution of compassion one life at a time. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.